Schizophrenia does not exist. Neither does bipolar disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or any other alleged mental disorder. We all experience negative emotions from time to time, some of us more than others. However, the disease that those signs and symptoms are said to characterize does not exist. The odd behavior exhibited by mentally ill people since ancient times can be attributed to lesions in the brain resulting from disease and injury. Those are real brain disorders with an underlying organic cause that can now be observed with medical diagnostics. However, when we're talking about mental disorders in the context of ADHD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, that is a completely different story. And it's no coincidence that there's lots of confusion about this. The idea that mental disorders exist is based on the chemical imbalance theory. Despite decades of research by eugenicists and others employed by drug companies, this theory has never been proven. No studies persistently show a chemical imbalance in the brains of unmedicated people labeled with those brain disorders. Again, this does not include lesions in the brain resulting from disease or injury. We're talking about mental disorders like schizophrenia and ADHD. Not only has the chemical imbalance theory never been proven, the opposite is true. Studies show that neuroleptics and psychostimulants cause brain damage. So, why do most of us believe in the existence of these brain disorders? The reason is Drug companies run the medical system. It is their medical system. You may ask, what about all of those books written on schizophrenia and ADHD? Or the experts in the patient advocacy groups and professional societies? Or the diagnostic manuals put out by the APA? Or how about those awareness-raising campaigns conducted by the National Institute of Mental Health? Mental disorders have to exist because they tell us so. And they can't all be mistaken, right? There is no mistake. Those groups are all drug company fronts. They are funded by and run by drug companies. Their leadership factions are held by psychopaths who know that schizophrenia and ADHD are complete medical frauds. In reality, those groups are all part of one big psychopathic complex. The disease model is very important to that complex for the following reasons. Most applicable to this discussion is the cover-up. For decades, the disease model effectively cloaked attacks by the multinational force against targeted individuals. The industry's literature tells us that those afflicted by such brain diseases are suffering paranoid delusions. We're told that the mentally ill person mistakenly thinks the following: that they are under surveillance. Let's stop right there. Official sources have announced that TIs are placed under 24/7 active surveillance. Active, meaning notably intrusive to the point where it is repeatedly communicated to them that they are being watched. That they are being attacked with directed energy weapons. Directed energy weapons are considered a non-lethal weapon by the Department of Defense to be used on citizens. that family members have been co-opted by government agencies to conspire against them. This happened in the United States during COINTELPRO. The security forces in other countries have done the same thing. Friends and family members are coerced into cooperating in bogus, never-ending investigations for the purpose of generating pressure on the TI. That citizens are persecuting them. This already happened in the United States as far back as 1917. Similar groups appeared in Communist Russia and East Germany. That TV and radio signals are transmitting personal messages to them. As part of PSYOP, radio and TV signals are being spoofed to communicate with the TI. In several of its non-lethal weapon reports, the Council on Foreign Relations stated that a TI's radio and TV signals would be intercepted and modified. The alteration of the TI's radio and TV signals is done during active and persistent surveillance to let them know they are being watched for the purpose of modifying their behavior. That government agencies are plotting to drive them insane. Once again, this happened already in the United States during COINTELPRO. The same thing occurred in communist East Germany during Zersettsung. That the environment has been arranged with products to attack them. Does that sound familiar? If you've read the chapter on PSYOP and the Coverup, you may know about this. This is standard psychological preparation of the environment. That is part of PSYOP. In order to communicate with the TI, you must greatly modify their environment using all possible channels. The pollution of the TI's environment with PSYOP products and spoofed signals is obviously a considerable form of entertainment for the psychopathic decision makers and their influential minions during persistent surveillance. Because we live in an ostensibly democratic society, the wealthy psychopaths who run it can't imprison people without a reason. These fake brain disorders allow them to bypass legal procedures and forcefully medicate or imprison people against their will. Those taking antipsychotics or institutionalized against their will are prisoners of war under chemical attack. That leads us to negative eugenics. In my book, Invisible Eugenics, I provide evidence that the psychostimulants and neuroleptics are, in reality, psychiatric chemical weapons allowing for chemical segregation and soft kill population control. The drug companies make over $16 billion every year selling toxic medication for completely fake brain disorders. This does not include all of the rest of the profit from medication and vaccine sales worldwide that total over $1 trillion. So, as you can see, the disease model is absolutely critical to the eugenicist psychopaths who run the system.